And today we got a fun episode here talking about I should say a cool episode here. We're talking about Top Gun, where there's...
Wait. I just had a good idea.
Hello, and welcome back to the J&Z podcast. Today we have a rather cool episode. If you couldn't tell by the way we're dressed, we are going to be reviewing Minions: The Rise of Gru. No, we're not. We will be reviewing Top Gun Maverick. We would be in suits if we were reviewing Minions. But yeah, this movie is frankly very, very good. One of the best I've seen in a good long time. It was a nice, simple plot, and they did everything that they wanted to do very, very well.
Yeah, it definitely was. There was no stupidness. Everything just fit into place perfectly for me.
I heard you earlier say you had the gall to say it was better than The Batman, and I'd like to call you out on that statement, because there ain't no way.
I think it's better than Batman.
Can I ask why? What brought you to that conclusion?
Okay, Batman was a good movie, but there's been multiple interpretations of that character, enough where you can look back on the previous interpretations and make changes or do a better job, so to speak. When you're making a legacy sequel for a movie, especially one that's beloved as Top Gun, while Top Gun is not Tom Cruise's best movie, it's one of his most recognizable, up there with Mission Impossible and some of his other ones. But this movie just took everything that the first movie did and turned it up to 11, and probably had one of the most exciting endings to a movie I've ever seen since Speed Racer. I'll even argue this is probably... I'd have to watch it one more time. I've seen it twice, but I would argue this is in my top 3 favorite movies of all time now.
Really? Top 3 of all time? I can't go that far, man. I don't even know if I'd put it in top 10.
We'll see. Like I said, it's not as good as Speed Racer, but it's there for me. It's got everything that I wanted. Any complaints that I could have had about the movie, they were not there. Like, one thing I was super worried about was I wanted Tom Cruise to be the best. I wanted Maverick to be the absolute best at everything. I didn't want the kids, to get in there and all of a sudden, they're teaching Maverick new tricks or something like that.
Yeah, it'd be stupid.
That just would have been dumb. I also wanted him to be the forefront of the story. I didn't want it where it kind of turned into a Star Wars where maybe he's in the background of the movie, but it's mostly about Goose's son Rooster or maybe some of the newer recruits. It wasn't that. He was always at the forefront of the story. He was always the guy doing the coolest things, and that's what I loved about it.
Yeah, we'll go back to that Batman argument later, but for now, I watched Top Gun for the first time just a few days ago, really, and I have to say, I wasn't that impressed by it. It was fine, but that's all I could say about it.
You just watched it?
Yeah, I had no reason to besides then. I mean,
okay.
It's not like I honestly don't feel like I was missing out on that much. I mean,
no,
the plot was
Top Gun is one of those movies where it's like everybody's seen Top Gun.
Yeah, I know. It's just with that plot, I get it's from the mid 80s, but that was the most predictable plot ever, and the cool parts were the fighter jet sequences, but they improved upon it so much, but they were just so choppy, it was actually kind of hard to tell what was happening. And I'm sure it was great at the time, but it was just hard to follow, and it was all right. I didn't see why it was so highly regarded nowadays, but
it's just a cult classic, you know what I mean?
It's got a cool factor, for sure.
It made money, But compared to a lot of other Cruise movies, it was probably one of the least grossing and probably one of my least favorite that he did. Like, I,
I
I
agree.
love Top Gun.
I'd even take The Outsiders over that.
I don't know about that. I mean, it's a good movie, but like Tom Cruise is in it for like 2 seconds, so that's not really a Tom Cruise movie in my opinion. Um, but as in terms of the nostalgia factor for me is where it kicks in because that was one of the movies I watched a lot, like Tremors and Twister. It was just one of those movies I watched a lot on top of Star Wars and stuff. So when they announced Maverick about 10 years ago, I want to say, or 7, I can't remember. It was like, oh, okay. But it was a very scary feeling because it's just a legacy sequel. And we see how some legacy sequels have happened in the past with Star Wars. They kind of ruined.
Yeah,
They ruined
they thought.
just
I've seen like leading up to it, a lot of people were worried. You know, whereas is this the only thing I could that pops into mind is Duke Nukem Forever or something like just something that got stuck into development. You know, for like a solid decade, and then it comes out and it's like it shows because it went through so many different revisions and people. But I actually think it was a very tight story. They didn't spend any. They didn't waste your time. They didn't go. They went pretty crazy. They went quite a bit. They leaned into it quite a bit with the nostalgia bait, whatever. But it wasn't overbearing. I didn't feel
mm,
like it was distracting. But they do go into that quite a bit, and I do appreciate that they took a. Let's be honest, we were all here for the stinking like fighter jets, and they did so much better than the last movie when it comes to the choreography, the stunts, everything was phenomenal when they were flying those planes. You really had a true sense of
well,
like
because they were really in there.
I know, and it you felt like you were right there with them, and like they crashed and everything. Like
So the first time I saw this movie was in a drive-in, and me and my brother we stayed up till 2 to watch it, and some of those scenes, I mean, it was super good the first time, obviously. But when we went back to watch it in a movie theater and the screen was way closer, the one shot where they go over the mountain and they kind of twist upside down, I was freaking out. I was like, whoa, because it just felt so real, like you were in the cockpit. It's the first movie where I can say fully, like, you feel like you're in the movie half the time.
I'm glad I went to a good theater for this. I went up to Holland or whatever, and they have a cool new theater there.
Oh,
And
really?
I swear there's only like 40 seats there, but they're all plush leather, fully recline, massage, everything. And it sounded and looked great. And I'm glad I went to that one because everything there was just perfect, and it was such a great viewing experience.
Yeah. Yeah, just the movie in general, like you could have went to the worst theater possible and it still would have been a good time.
Oh yeah, but
The story was just so well done. Like regardless of the stunts and the action, the story was just so well done. I loved the heart of it, like how you have the relationship between Rooster and Maverick. I
I thought
loved
that
that
was
that was
great.
the heart of it.
I
I
like that they
loved it.
kept you guessing why he was so mad at Maverick. Like you had an idea, but you didn't know if it was kind of like because he kept him behind those 4 years, because he killed his dad, if it was a combination of those things. You didn't know what was really eating at him most, and I think that
Did you watch the first or the second one first?
I watched the first one first.
Okay. I don't know about me with that because
It was
it once it was revealed that he kept Rooster back for those 4 years and, pulled his papers and stuff, that wasn't a big deal because throughout the whole film, I just assumed that he's mad for the death of his father and
that's what I'm
blames him
saying.
for that mostly. Okay.
But it was kind of nice that it wrapped up the loose ends there with it's like his
Hmm.
mother died, that was her dying wish, and then you know he took the fall for that one. He didn't want any animosity. So it kind of I like that it gave him more of a character development. He was all on his own. He had nothing left to lose, so he chose to bear that responsibility. I thought that was handled very well. and it made sense, and it was a good character moment.
Yeah. Um, Another thing I appreciate was just they didn't waste any screen time for anything in this movie. If it was on screen, it had a purpose. And one of the moments that was just I applaud Tom Cruise for really forcing them to casting Val Kilmer again and not uh, CGIing him or doing something different, like just kind of playing him off like in a death or something like that. The storytelling was so well done where the whole reason, Maverick is still flying the planes because at this time in his age, he would have been retired or doing something else, like they said in the movie. Um, so I appreciate that Val Kilmer was there for a reason. It wasn't just for a quick cameo. And then once he goes to Iceman,
Mm-hmm.
uh, then when he's typing on the computer and he's talking to each other, it was a good, solid character moment that just wasn't wasted, and I just really appreciated that moment. Like the action sequences are great, yes, but this movie throughout the scenes and stuff, those are the ones that really stood out to me the most.
I agree. I thought they handled his talking scene with him super well. It was a good balance. I like the little joke they threw in at the end there.
Mm-hmm.
That was just
It's cute.
It was very cute, and it was just such a. It's nice that they were able to include him in this movie, despite where he's at. So it's just like I said earlier, it's just a really tight story, and I'm now that I'm thinking about it, I like the way they handled their relationships. None of it felt like out of character, none of it felt weird, and a lot of it felt more heartfelt than I was expecting from this movie. So it's not super deep, but they do it well. That's all I gotta say about the characters. It's not some grandiose thing, but they handle it very well, and there is some emotional moments.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. One thing I was really scared of was that the characters were going to be boring. Maybe the only one you really cared about was Rooster. That's my main concern, but there's so many other characters in there. You got Hangman, you got Bob that just really
Bob.
stood out and that had great character moments. They weren't wasted. They weren't throwaway characters. But those were really good.
The only decision I felt that they that didn't quite sit right was when he picked Goose over Hangman. Because things went exactly like how you'd expect it to for the vast majority of it. Like he was,
but that's what
behind.
You want.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
But it doesn't. It has to make sense. To fix.
And it did. He was the better trained pilot, and it showed.
He wasn't. He really, truly wasn't. Hangman was a better pilot almost the entire time. He finally
Hangman
got
always left his people. Remember, in the first movie, that was Tom Cruise or Maverick. He would always leave his wingman.
I know. But you know what fixed him really was going on an actual mission.
No, I know, but just in the grand scheme of things, it still made sense, but still was satisfying from a story perspective, because that's what you want. You want him to pick Goose.
The others,
or not Goose, Rooster.
I kind of agree with what you're saying, and I agree with that. The only other thing that I didn't like that they took from the original story was, when Goose died in the first movie, he was all depressed about it. He couldn't fly very well. And so he just gimmied his way through the entire school, and all of a sudden it was at the final battle. Like, it totally, like it didn't give you that sense of, oh, he's redeeming himself now, and now he's ready to go fight. He, literally, did the bare minimum to pass, and then he was shipped off as a hero out of nowhere. They kind of did the same thing. Like, none of them had successfully done that run before, besides Tom Cruise. Like, they weren't even close. And then they were going to go be sent to go do it. Because of which I guess it builds tension, but it's like they clearly aren't ready,
Well, that's why he chose the ones that he thought were the ready. And that's why they made him team leader.
Right.
There was just so many good moments where Tom Cruise just shined the brightest in that movie. And I'm so happy that this movie made $1 billion, because it can show people, Take your time with the stories. Make sure that they're really well written. And also, you can do physical uh, things. Like, I'm sure if they used CGI for the planes, it still would have had the same impact. But it's cool that you could have the actual actors train for the flight, and it still kind of be around the same budget.
Yeah, I heard that they did like a training course for it. Tom
Hmm.
Cruise had him because he threw up in his mask on the first movie at one point. So he had him go through like 3 months of training, I heard.
Well, I don't think it was just because of that, because
But like,
if there's something went wrong and all of a sudden they crashed into the ocean, they would have needed to know like how to get out of that plane fast
right.
and just getting used to the G's and stuff.
Were the actual crashes real or were they CGI'd? It's
Oh,
hard to
I'm
say.
sure those were CGI, but I mean, it was really well done.
I didn't notice. That's why I'm asking the question right now.
Yeah, crashes I'm sure were CGI, but as in terms of like when they were in the plane moving about, that's all real.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. It adds that kind of wow factor where the entire time you're thinking, man, this is really happening. Like, it's not just a movie at this point. This is like they're seriously doing this stuff. That'd be the coolest set to work on ever. Like, come on.
It would be.
That'd be sick.
The I think we should talk a little bit about like some of our favorite of the action scenes and stuff.
Oh, I got mine.
Oh, okay.
No, you go ahead though. I want to see what yours is.
All right. Well, so one of my favorite moments in that whole movie is I'm getting ready for just Tom Cruise to show all these kids just what's up. And it's when they're training and stuff, and all of a sudden, they're all like, "Oh, where is he? Where is he?" And he
He's
just
upside
flies
down.
up right in front of them, and it's the whole
Yeah,
compilation of them just getting taken out by him. I loved that.
that
That
was
was probably one of my favorites.
that was super fun. I
Hmm.
like that whole sequence. That was actually a really cool part.
Yeah,
My
good music
biggest
choice too with the Hue.
my biggest wow factor moment kind of I think was when they were fighting against the foreign guys and the other guys just kind of like him and he just like totally like hits the brakes and starts going sideways. He's like, "What the?" And that was so cool cuz you're like, "Oh man, they might actually be in trouble this time. This guy's crazy
Yeah,
too." And I thought that was a very fun action sequence too.
I think the ending for this movie has probably the most exciting and intense action of any movie sequel, period. Any movie sequel. I still prefer Speed Racer's ending, but this ending was just so exciting when they're in the F-14 and he's just like, just don't think, just do. And he slams on it as hard as he can, just takes out the first plane. First plane comes crashing down. He's like, "All right, show me when there's fire in the sky and stuff." Then he uses the first plane that he just shot down
As
as cover for the missile.
that was so
It,
cool.
it oh man, even the second time I was still just wowed by it.
They made everything look super cool, which is where that advertisement part comes in, but it's undoubtedly cool. Like I don't even care. Like that's just fun. There
Hmm.
was so much fun stuff. But I think now's a good time to bring in Batman because I still don't think there was any moments in this movie as hype as that Batmobile chase. I know they're totally different movies, but
I gotta disagree with you. I
really,
think that the aerial sequences in this beats that as much as I love the Batmobile scene. I love Batman. I loved the Batman. That's probably my favorite interpretation of Batman. I've watched it so many times since it's on HBO Max, but I just loved this way more. There's not been a movie like this in a long time where you're coming out of the theater and you're like, "Man, I want to see that again."
I did want to see it again, and I will see it again,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
there's not been a single movie like that in a long time. Like even Batman, like I was wanting to see it again, but it wasn't like right out of the theater like I want to see it again.
Yeah. And I think
This
this
is
movie, you can already rent it on YouTube. I don't know how long it's been out, but I can't wait for it to come to some streaming platforms and some like real Ultra HD everything. Because
I know.
as much as this should be seen in a theater, I think if you have the right setup, you could probably get pretty darn close.
But I mean, I was right in like you need to see this in a theater. It's like Pacific Rim, it's like Speed Racer, it's like Godzilla, it's like Avengers Endgame. Like this is a movie that is a theatrical movie, and it won't be the same once it's on Blu-ray.
I agree. I do agree. But
it'll still be good, but it won't be the same.
But yeah, pretty definitively though, this is your movie of the year so far.
This is probably going to be still, yeah. We'll see when Avatar comes out, because that's the only one that I'm like really, really excited for. And I guess we'll see with the other Marvel movies what they're going to be doing. But other than that, this is definitely movie of the year. And then Batman.
I'll switch it the other way around, but I still really did like this movie. I mean, it was very fun. I'm glad that they just hit all the major beats correctly. And it didn't take like a ton of risk, but I didn't really want it to either. So that's fine by me. I'm glad they did exactly what we wanted with Tom Cruise. Because it could have been a crappy movie with if they, like a Pacific Rim, the second one.
Oof.
That would have been bad.
Don't remind me of that trash. Yeah, it definitely was. And now I'm kind of excited to see what he'll do next, because obviously he has Mission Impossible coming out next year, and then the year after that with part 1 and part 2 of Dead Reckoning.
I want to see that.
But I want to see like what they'll do. Like, will they make an Edge of Tomorrow sequel, or will they make a Days of Thunder sequel? Like, I'm kind of interested. Well, so since we've started this, I've shown Keaton basically all the Tom Cruise movies you can, and that's his favorite actor now of all time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh yeah, he's ready for Mission Impossible. He saw that trailer in the theater. He's like, yeah, he's getting all excited and stuff.
I'm not gonna lie, I was very intrigued when they sent that train off that cliff.
I know.
I was like, what on earth?
I'm ready for it. I want to see like what else wacky stunts can he do, because I'm sure that him jumping off the motorcycle and him igniting the flight suit is just like the first thing you see. I'm sure there's going to be something in there that's going to blow every other stunt out of the water. Not that one's crazy, but I'm sure there's going to be another one where it's like he's got a death wish.
I think that's pretty darn close too, so I don't know, But I'm looking forward to that one as well. We'll definitely cover that one when it comes out.
Yeah, maybe we can do like a Tom Cruise month or something like that, where we cover some movies from him.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
But yeah, in the meantime, do all that YouTube stuff, and if you like this stuff, we are two cool guys. We're pretty cool.
Pretty cool. And hopefully the sunglasses and jacket combo comes back in another video.
I laughed at love cause I thought it was funny, but you came along and you proved me, honey. I changed my mind.